We're a minute late, 18:01.
You are live.
18:01. 18:01. All right, good evening. We're going to begin here in a second. Just a reminder, to please turn your cell phones off or on silence. And council members, ensure your microphones are turned on. All right, today is Monday, June 10th, 2024. Today is a regular legislative meeting of Barberton City Council. But before we begin our regular legislative meeting, we do have individual committee meetings this evening. And we will start with City Properties, Parks, and Recreation with Mr. Cheatham.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, I'd like to bring the City Properties, Parks, and Recreation Committee to order. Today is June 10, 2024. Time is now 6:03 p.m. We are in council chambers. All members of my committee are present, including myself as chair, assistant chair, Rebecca Gerhardt, Jen Hager, and Justin Greer. All of the council members are, as noted on my sheet also. We have one request for legislation. The first being a letter from Fulton Benya, interim planning director, requesting legislation allowing the mayor to sell various city-owned properties. Emergency wording and one reading requested. With that, the floor is open to discussion for the committee.
Do we know why it's an emergency, Kenny?
I do not.
So we can be able to sell the lots quickly and be able to speed up the process, because we've had some phone calls for some of the lots that haven't been for sale, so we've had residents interested in it, so it just allows for the efficiency and speediness to get rid of these lots.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
I have one more question. There are more lots than this. Is there going to be another round of, hey, these lots are for sale?
There could be, yes. I know Pete Worsler, our former planning director before he left, worked diligently on it, so there might be some lots that aren't on here for various reasons, whether it's in a floodplain and we're holding it for stormwater prevention. There could be a couple other variables, but we can definitely look into that and do another round.
Okay.
And while we have you, what's the going price on these lots, and how is that?
So there's a policy that I don't know off the top of our head, but we have it on our website. It's, Councilman Griffin?
It's $1 per square foot for a buildable lot.
Okay.
And 15 cents a square foot for a non-buildable lot.
Yes.
Say that again?
It might be $1.25 now per square foot. I believe that was changed in
I think it went up.
Inflation.
recently. Yeah, I think, but I'm not 100% sure.
It's
$8.
it's the same policy, it's just, I think we did alter it just by some cents.
Yeah.
But it's, is it project impact? Is that
Yes.
the policy? Yeah. But the policy is still the exact same.
Yeah.
No, okay.
A non-buildable lot, you said?
15 cents.
15 cents.
So 10 by 100 by 50 by 100 would be $5,000.
How will you market these that they are for sale? Like, how are these going to be, how will people know that
So
they're for sale?
we will have the list both on our website, we'll have it in our office, and then we also ordered more of those billboards that we can put up on the lots. I think we ordered 30 or 40 more of them, and then we're also able to recycle the ones that have been sold previously as well. And then we can also counsel people, if you have anyone that you know are interested as well, feel free to pass along the list to them.
So more specifically, are you going to offer these to neighboring homes?
It's available for anybody who wants to purchase it.
They
So
have to go search it out themselves?
yeah.
Okay. Let's say that somebody wants to use representation to buy these. Would you allow that?
Yeah, I mean, yes, we have the application, as long as they follow our application and the policy that's been approved by council, that is okay.
Are you then going to offer compensation to that person that's representing them?
I'm not sure what the policy states on that.
Have you guys considered offering those on the MLS? Like the
I
multiple
don't
listings?
think so.
I mean, if you want them to sell quickly, that's probably the best route to go.
Okay.
Honestly. Otherwise, unless how long has the city been sitting on these lots?
Right.
So who's going to know that how many lots are on here? Probably almost 100?
Yeah, I think there was
Who's to
over
know that these
100.
are for sale? So if the idea is to move quickly, that's your best way to go.
Okay, no, that's good to know. Good information, we can talk about that.
So is it $1 or
Go ahead.
Is there a priority to them selling? Like, I think I had an instance in my ward, they were first in line, but then it was gonna get sold to somebody who wanted to make it, like, build on it. So is there a priority to who you'll sell it to?
So I think when this was first started, the policy was created to be able to build on these lots, but then there's also other factors as well, whether or not the applicant who wants to build, whether or not they have any outstanding code violations for other properties they may own throughout the city.
Okay.
Excuse me
Yes.
for taking over here, but if your property borders it, you have choice. So, in other words, if your land abuts the vacant property, you would be offered that.
You'll get priority from
Yes,
somebody
you buy
else's
that.
application?
Especially the side lot, one that's non-buildable, that means you would extend your yard to, and you would have a bigger yard. So
Right.
that makes sense.
Is it 1 or 125 for buildable on a square foot? Do we remember? I heard two different things.
Yeah, I don't know.
Project impact, can we just look that up online ourselves?
Yeah, we probably can.
I know that it went up just recently, and I want to say it's $1.25, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
And then if a lot is not on here that we're voting on tonight, but somebody wants a lot that is not on here, how would they go about doing that?
So they can reach out to our department, and Stacy has had a running list of people who have reached out for parcels that are not on our current list to be sold, so we would add that to the list. Once we hit a certain number, we would go back before council.
So they'd have to wait for the next round.
Correct.
Do you work with the land bank also, or?
We do, Stacy works more with the land bank, and that's a different process and policy.
Okay. Any more discussion from the committee? Gallery? Floor, down. If not, can I get a motion on call of this legislation?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. And thank you.
Wait a second.
And with that,
Hey, Kenny, I think we have to vote.
yeah, that's fine. I'm getting to it. I'm getting to it. I'm taking my time.
Okay.
Okay. I got a first and a second. With that, can I get a members voting to call this piece of legislation out of committee signified by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. And with that, I have nothing else. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll second that.
Thank you. It's been moved and second. This meeting is adjourned at 6:30. 11 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Cheatham. Next up is Public Welfare and Safety with Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Mr. President. This time I'd like to bring the Public Welfare and Safety Committee to order. It's Monday, June 10th, 2024. Time is now 6:11 p.m. We're in council chambers. Excuse me. All members of my committee are present, including myself as chair, Mr. Cheatham as co-chair, Ms. Gerhart, and Mr. Greer. All other council members and others as noted on my sheet. We have one request for legislation to this evening, and it's a letter from Mr. Robert Incravati, the court administrator, requesting legislation to enter into contract with Royce U.S. Protection Service, further known as Tenable Protective, for 1 year from July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. Emergency wording requested. Do we have any questions regarding that? And if everybody's not familiar with this would be our security at the front door for the municipal building. Questions? Anybody?
I was curious, they're unarmed? Is that
Unarmed,
because we have
yes.
police in our building already?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Do I have a motion to call for this?
So move.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Motion passed. Do we have anything from the committee? From the body? Gallery? One thing I will bring up is I've received numerous complaints about the traffic at Hudson and 2nd Street. If there's a train coming, all the eastbound traffic obviously is going to be stopped. It's a double yellow line there. There's people coming from 2nd Street that are turning onto Hudson Run going westbound. The people that are sitting in traffic eastbound that want to make a left-hand turn onto 2nd are jumping traffic and causing a safety hazard there. I know our police have been out watching that area, watching Hudson Run. I just want to bring light to not do that, okay? It's dangerous. We might want to look at, I guess I could talk to Ms. Eisman about maybe putting up some temporary, those little stanchions that they bolt in the ground. You can run them over, but let's hope not. But that's something I can discuss with her later.
Since the closures, has there been any other hotspots open up?
Just a little bit more traffic within the neighborhoods.
Okay.
And I know our police department's monitoring that.
I know Hopkins seems really busy.
Yeah, and we're gonna get more traffic
Okay.
just based on Worcester Road West being closed, going eastbound.
I don't know what you mean by, what were you talking about, putting something in the road there? What?
Have you ever seen the little stands they put in the, they're like little barricade type things that they can bolt into the pavement?
They could like only go a certain way, is that?
No, it just keeps you in your lane, maintains the traffic
Gotcha, okay.
until they get to that point
Trying to
where,
make sure what you're
if the train goes through and then traffic opens back up, then,
Would somebody directing traffic also help? Maybe on like certain times? of the
Probably
day?
not.
Okay.
It's more dangerous to put somebody out there
Probably.
during that time than,
You want to pay attention. Okay.
if people would just pay attention and be patient instead of,
Patient?
What's that?
What is that?
being patient.
Would there be any benefit to making that a three-way stop instead of just a two-way?
I don't know, that's something they'd have to do a traffic study and it would take longer than,
Construction will be over by the time.
yeah, construction may be over by the time traffic study gets done.
That spot has always been like that.
Yeah.
And even before this, you had people that would do exactly what he talked
Yeah.
about when a train sat there. Three-way wouldn't do any different.
Yeah.
They still would do
They're still
that
gonna do the
at
same thing.
Stop train, so.
Yeah. As soon as they see a train, they figure, oh, the traffic stopped. let me take off so I can make my left-hand turn on the Second. When there's traffic on Second that's going to turn right to go westbound on Hudson, and then there's the risk of a head-on collision, whatever else. So, anything else? Any miscellaneous? Gallery? Nothing? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
We are adjourned at 6:16.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Next up is Rules, Marketing, and Development with Ms. Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, I'd like to bring the Rules, Marketing, and Development Committee to order. It's Tuesday, June 10th, and the time is 6:17 p.m. We are in council chambers. All members of my committee are present, including myself as chair, Mrs. Beck, Mr. Heidick, and President Greer. All other council members and others as noted on my sheet. We have no new requests for legislation at this time. We have one pending piece of legislation that we will be voting on this evening. A letter from Safety Director Eisman requesting legislation to amend the hours of DORA for a special event on Sunday, September 8th, 2024 from 1 to 6 p.m. This is a special event for a Magic's Ready to Learn tailgate fundraiser at the Block 7 parking lot. Did we have any questions about this? I think we're all good. Okay. With no other requests at this time, we're going to take about 10 minutes to discuss council rules. Has everybody read those recently and had any thoughts that they'd want to share off the top? Okay. So one of the first things we can talk about was how we could outline a process for liquor license objections. Maybe our more seasoned council members can talk about how that has gone in the past and if we need anything to outline that. Mr. Greer.
Thank you, Chair. With this being my suggestion, up until my time on council, so a little over 4.5 years, been here following for about 6, not one time have we ever ran into the issue where council, the legislative body, has objected to a liquor license. The first time we did that was last year. There was nothing outlined anywhere on how this was supposed to work. We figured it out. We just kind of crawled through here on council, but there's legal things that have to happen. So it was kind of a debacle. We did it. We had to come back. We did it again. We had to come back, and then ultimately we had to. So it was a little bit of an embarrassment to try to get through that. So outlining this in council rules would just help future.
Yes.
What needs to happen during a liquor license objection. So just so you guys are aware, if there is an objection from city council, we can't object, or a single member on city council can't object to the liquor license. It has to be the legislative body as a whole. In order to do that, we have to take a vote. That can be handled. There's nothing in Robert's rules or anything to handle that. However, it is a legal requirement for us to take a vote. So it just needs to be a simple outline that not necessarily how it runs, but just that has to happen. Like the body has to vote on the objection. So that's really all that is. It's just making sure that happens so we don't run in. It could very well stall the business from moving forward, and it's a waste of time if it's not done correctly. So.
Okay. Do we know how many have to vote a certain way for that to go through?
It's a majority vote.
A majority?
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you feel would need to be outlined for this?
Nope. It's just we pioneered the way on how it ran. Just so you guys are aware, and we've done this before. When there's an objection, I will ask if there's anybody on council that objects to the liquor license. If there is one, then they are given time to state their case, and a debate happens, and then we'll take a vote. If there is no objection, we don't even go down that road. It's just no objection. Nothing needs to happen, so only actions need to happen during an objection. So really, if we want to outline it, we can. I think that part was pretty self-explanatory when we were going through the process. It was just finding out the legal from the state side of things that needed to happen.
Okay.
Because I handle them when they come in, I'm going to give you guys a quick overview
Okay.
I get a letter from liquor control, has the application. I have X amount of days to send this down. I scan it, I email it to safety director, the chief of police, and the ward council person that the property is located in. Any objections? I'm sure a couple of you have gotten them from me. Any objections to this? I get usually I get an email back. The chief, the safety director, no objections, or the chief will say that he has objections or whatever. Any one of those objections. If I get no objections, then I just send it down, we have no objections, I have to sign it, seal it, and certify mail back to them. If we have an objection, that's when this process will come into play. Then I'll just list, hey, we had a liquor license come through, no objections were filed, it was returned certified mail on this date. So, like he said, it's rare that we get an objection, so you'll just get an announcement. But if we get an objection, we need something so that we can get it back within those time constraints. Otherwise, the Board of Liquor Control will just say, well, they had no objection. You know,
Okay.
Now, an objection doesn't mean that they can't have a liquor license. You guys have no control over that. What it means is we request a hearing. That we have a problem with it and we request that they come through for a hearing. The most famous one would probably be the one on Snyder Avenue. We had objections. It went down and we requested a hearing and the hearing was scheduled. That's all that happens. And then it's up to whoever they call to testify, because we're not the only ones. It goes to the Board of Education. It went to, the one on Snyder, it goes to the Board of Education, City Council. It went to AMHA as a government entity within that jurisdiction. AMHA had huge complaints against it, as well as the Barberton police, so they were called to testify. We're not the only ones that are notified and have options to object or to pass.
Okay.
So just so you know, it's requesting a hearing. It's not saying you can't have it.
Okay.
Goes to the churches also, Laura.
Does it?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And for the AMH building and the churches, that's just like close
I
to
think we get
where
that.
the liquor would,
They're-
okay,
They're within.
Within the vicinity.
okay.
So Chair, in short, it just needs to outline somewhere that an objection from the legislative body or city council requires a majority vote. That's,
Okay.
What is the radius that
No idea.
it goes into?
I have no idea.
Because I remember just this past one, but for the Enchanted, Councilman Griffin said that we, brought up the fact that we do need that sort of guideline within our own. He wanted to have that here. I mean, I think this is probably the time for us to discuss something like that.
I can call the liquor control. I have a guy down there that I call for questions. I can ask him.
Right.
All right.
Why should ours be any different than theirs? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it.
I mean, I don't know. I don't want to speak for you, Councilman Griffin.
I know, we have home rule here that we could put any rule in.
Right.
Liquor control merely is notifying churches and government entities within a certain realm. What that realm is, I'm not sure, but if their realm is 1,000 feet from the place, we're still free to make it 500 feet.
Indeed, but that's.
But yeah, what
I'm comfortable
what
with
liquor
that, but I'd
controls
like to know
is-
what they are.
is- I'm not sure what liquor controls is, but they do notify certain entities. But their radius,
Sure.
who knows theirs?
Yeah, and I'm comfortable with us, having our home rule right, but, if that's something we need to do, then maybe we should look at them and know what those are to maybe model ours a little bit.
Wednesday evening is the plan commission meeting. Come down and tell them to put it in the new code.
I think I am coming to that.
There you go.
Is there anything in planning that talks about that already?
I want to say 500 feet.
Okay, I was just
Could it be
wondering.
yards? Because I was thinking 500 yards
I mean, I don't know what 500 yards are, if it's in
times 3.
it's only 10 feet, I don't know.
Okay. Is there any other discussion about this one in particular? We'll do one more before I end the meeting. Okay. We want to make sure that we have the ability, I believe it's to live stream and record our council meetings into the council rules. We do it now, but we don't have it kind of in print. Is there any objection or question to putting that in the new rules? Good. Okay, well, that's good for this evening. We'll talk more next time. So, is there any more conversation, any miscellaneous conversation? Oh, I'm sorry.
Ms. Gerhart, I can confirm it is 500 feet.
500 feet is already in plan.
500 feet.
Yes. For any church, school, library, public playground, or township park that is within 500 feet.
Well, you have that pulled up. Could you send that to me whenever you have a chance? Or tell me how to find
Later.
it?
I'll tell you how to find it. I don't know if I can legally
Okay.
forward that to you.
Thank you. Okay, any other discussion? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. We are adjourned at 6:28 PM.
Thank you, Ms. Gerhart.
You're welcome.
Next up is City Utilities with Mr. Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. President. City Utilities. I would like to call this meeting to order today, June 10th. We are in council chambers and the time is 6:29. All members of my committee are present. Myself as chair, Jennifer Hager, Emily Beck, and Justin Greer, and all others noted. We have one piece of legislation to call for tonight. We have a letter from Michael Teodecki, city engineer, requesting legislation to authorize the city to submit a funding application to the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, ODNR H2 Ohio, for Truson Farm wetland restoration and stream creation project. The emergency wording requested. Please see request for supporting documentation, and we would like to refer this to finance. Now, Mr. Teodecki is not here. Do we have anybody out there that can give us an update on this a little bit?
I can share a little bit.
Share a little bit, Todd.
What it is it's just we're turning in an application for funding to help some stormwater mitigation throughout the Truson Farms area. So most of it is so it would be like the northwest corner. It'll be creating some like pocket ponds and redirecting some of the stormwater flow.
Now, this is just an application for money from the ODNR.
Yes.
Okay,
To
not the
plan,
city.
to plan,
To
and
plan.
all it is to plan these pocket ponds and stormwater mitigation. That's
Okay.
for the planning process.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you, Todd.
Yep.
Do you have anybody else? Mr. Greer?
Thank you, Chair. My questions, Mr. Teodecki's not here to answer, so I'll make sure to reach out. But this is private property, correct?
I believe that there is actually a stream that we would be required to maintain that runs through that property.
Okay.
But again, he could probably answer better on that, but I do know, like, you know, if it's providing drainage to a certain area that is a public sewer, storm sewer, we would be required to maintain. And we have went through that property before and cleaned a creek to help with southern Barberton.
Okay.
And some of the flooding there at Annette,
Elson Point.
So is this is, I know what creek that you're talking about, because that opened up, is this the one that went up to Averly Webb too as well, like that entire stretch? Is the project going to touch any of the Eastern Road drainage that we're working on over there?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, so that is going to run through private property. Why would he not get the funding to do this himself? We've given him a lot of money and incentives already to build over there.
It's a question that I can't answer.
Okay.
I can get you an answer.
And I got another question. When I was in here, the gentleman that owns the property said it was his property. He can let it flood if he wants. I mean, we are very familiar with that area flooding. Will this relieve some of the flooding over there? Are we going to open up the drainages over into the stream?
So I would have to find that information out for you.
Okay. All right.
Again, this is just to apply for funding to plan the project itself. So.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Shreve. Thank you, Chair.
Oh, yes, Mr. Heidi.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Shreve, again, Mr. Tedecchi's not here, but these, according to this, it looks like it's new pocket wetlands, proposed two-stage natural channel, proposed wetland pool. The south side has a big enough problem with mosquitoes and all sorts of things of that nature. This looks like it's just going to create more standing water after storms, for one, and for two, we've done so much work on the south side of Barberton that have alleviated flooding. Is pocket wetlands, this is obviously a higher elevation than the neighborhood below it there to the west. A bad enough storm with pocket wetlands, is that going to cause any sort of overflow back into South Barberton, which we have done so much
So
to clear?
any type of stormwater improvement is going to, so it's going to be designed to retain or detain water long enough to allow it to naturally leak. If it is inundated with too much water, it's going to naturally continue to flow. It's not going to back it up and hold it back. It's going to spill over spillways into swales and that type of thing. So it would never be designed to cause any more problems upstream. What it's designed to do is to try to gather more water and slowly get rid of it instead of flooding and raising the levels of everything below it to where it backs up. But again, there would be measures in place that it wouldn't cause any issues upstream.
And has MAD been consulted on any of this? Because they're the first ones. I know I requested one of those yard treatments. When I told him I lived across the street from Everly Park, he hit his head on the desk because of how bad it is down there with those. And this is going to be, again, according to this map, talking about wetlands, new wetlands. So have they been contacted? Has there been any discussion on that?
I would have to get that answer for you. I don't have that answer.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Heidi. I think this here piece of legislation here is just for the application itself. It's nothing else. In other words, we could pass it, make a motion to pass it for the application, and then it would still have to go to finance and be discussed again. So we could still pass this tonight without any problems. Do I have a motion to call for this piece of legislation?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Greer. A second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. Motion passes. Do we have anything else for city utilities, from the gallery, from the body? Okay. Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Hager. Second?
I'll second.
Second. We are adjourned at 6:36. With that, I pass.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Next up, and last but not least, Finance and Personnel with Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to bring the Finance and Personnel Committee to order. It is Monday, June 10th, 2024, 6:36 p.m. here in Council Chambers. All members of the committee are present, which includes myself as chair, Mr. Heidig, Mr. Griffin, and Mr. Greer. All other council members are also present, as well as guests as noted on my sheet. We have no new requests for legislation, as that is reserved for committee of the whole evenings. We do have the presentation of the finance report for May of 2024.
Good evening. For the healthcare fund for May of 2024, we're going to start there. You'll notice the revenues were only 96, almost 97,000. As I stated last month when I was given the report, there was a mistake recording the revenues for March and April, along with the April revenues, when the March shouldn't have been posted. So we reversed that entry, and that's why it's so low. If it wasn't for that error, there would have been about 429,000, 427,000 in revenues for the month of May. Still, the expenses would have exceeded the revenues. Would have exceeded it by 48,000. The unexpended fund balance is 1,359,478, putting on net year to date at a negative 445,000. Moving on to the income tax fund. Estimate for the month of May was 1,460,000. Actuals a little over 2 million, 2.1 million. Just note on that, that's not all it is income tax money. But we did receive our retainer from Rita in the month of May. So for those new to council, Rita withholds at a flat 3% rate throughout the year, and then come May, they will reconcile. So they'll see what they collected as an entity as a whole. They'll see what portion of that collection was ours and charge us accordingly. That translated into this past year, why they withheld at 3%. Our actual fees for Rita came in at 0.87%, so less than 1% of our collections in the administrative fees that Rita charges us. So a lot lower than CCA was charging us, so we are saving money there. But we did receive that. It was about 330,000 this year, split between Fund 201 and 219. So street capital and income tax. So in the month of May, we did transfer almost 1.9 million. It leaves us with 6.45 million left to transfer. And our net year-to-date actual is a little over $7 million right now. So we are trekking ahead, a little bit ahead of last year at this time. Moving on to the statement of cash receipts and disbursements. A few funds in the negative. Pretty much the usual funds though. It's the city grant fund. You'll notice that went in a negative by even more this past month. A lot of that has to deal with them opening up the encumbrance for the dewatering building down at the wastewater treatment plant that we got a full grant for. So that, of course, that big encumbrance got open, so that's putting it in the negative by quite a bit, but we will get reimbursed once we start paying on that stuff. Next fund in the negative is the FEMA fund. That's the flood mitigation and the dam grants. Once again, once we expend the money, they'll reimburse us. Same with CDBG, that's our federal HUD grant. And then the other two funds in the negative is the health insurance fund and the general liability loss fund. The health insurance fund, that will keep getting out of that negative as time goes on throughout the year as we do the chargebacks to the departments. The general liability loss fund, as you can see, that negative number is getting smaller as the year goes by. Once we charge back to the departments the cost of insurance claims, that fund will get built back up. So as time goes on, that negative should go away. Moving on to the last 3 months of activity, you'll notice the general fund, it's up by about $623,000
compared to last month. A lot of that has to deal with us transferring more. You'll notice this from last month to this month, we've transferred about $663,000 more. So that translates into that general fund going up by about $623,000. So special revenue funds, you notice it went down. A lot of that has to deal with those encumbrances, and that encumbrance is due to the dewatering building at the wastewater treatment plant. It went down about 2.4 million, and that's about the size of the encumbrance down there for that project. Enterprise funds and our encumbrances, that went down by $1 million, but if you look at the encumbrances outstanding, you'll notice the encumbrances are up by about $1 million. So that is why that went down. And all other funds is out of the negative compared to March. It would have been in a negative in April if it wasn't for that accidental posting of that one revenue journal. It would have still been in a negative in April, so we're finally out of the negative. We're in the positive now, and that should continue to grow throughout to the rest of this year. Looking at prior year to current year, general fund went down by about $380,000. Special revenue funds is down by about 6.6. Combination of things. If you look at the transfers at this time last year, transfers was only at 3.9 million. Right now we're at basically 8.3 million in transfers, so that's $4 million. And then you got the large encumbrance for the dewatering building once again. So that large encumbrance is just kind of going to throw special revenues, I don't want to say out of whack, but it is going to play a part in special revenues until we start getting reimbursed for it. Enterprise funds is down by about $2.1 million. Partially $750,000 they have in more in encumbrances this year compared to last year. So that makes up some of it. Then all other funds, you'll notice that went down compared to last year at the same time. A lot of that, once again, encumbrances outstanding. You'll notice that the encumbrances compared to last year are up by about $350,000. So that is making our unencumbered cash balance be a little bit lower. Any questions? Okay. Thank you.
All right, since there are no questions, can I have a motion to call for this?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. And a second? Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on, we have some pending legislation, the first being a resolution supporting the Ohio Commission for United States Semi-Quincentennial. And Ms. Ludwig is here, as she said she watched last week's video and thought that there may have been some confusion and that we didn't know what this was about, so she came to speak tonight. So if you want to go ahead and speak now rather than wait, feel free.
Thank you, Councilwoman Thompson. I just happened to be watching last week and noticed that this was being called for as a resolution, and since the semi-quincentennial is in 2026, I figured many, either on council or any other citizen that might be listening, would be wondering, why are we calling an emergency for something that doesn't happen till 2026? So in my position at my day job, I actually represent the America 250, which is the overarching commission that was established by Congress in 2016 to plan the big birthday. So I just wanted to give some information, and I printed out some information to leave behind as well. Just to let you know, America's 250 was appointed by the House and Senate leadership of both parties, so it is a bipartisan commission, or shall I say nonpartisan commission. It's composed of 16 private citizens, 4 U.S. representatives and 4 senators, as well as 12 ex officio members from all 3 branches of government and its independent agencies. It's chaired by former Treasury Secretary Rosie Rios. She's a great woman. And the official 3-year countdown was officially kicked off on July 4th, 2023. So we're actually in the process leading up for the 3-year event. They actually did America's Invitation, which was the first event held in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It was a Cubs versus Brewers game, and it was held with its partners next door, YWCA and Major League Baseball. Currently, 46 states, Ohio being one of them, has, along with territories of the United States, have signed on either via a governor's executive order or through their state legislatures. So there are a lot of different activations throughout this next 3 years. Currently, they're doing the pilot version of America's Field Trip, which is being done with students. Any student in the country can submit why they love America or what they think of America. And they're giving away this year 75 field trips, can be to a multitude of destinations, whether it's the Statue of Liberty or Yellowstone, amongst others, and they're going to be VIP trips, so things that the average person can't attend. It's going to lead up through, later this year, there's going to be America Gives, which is going to be the largest national service initiative. The pilot will launch September 11th of this year. And there's a number of different tentpole activities through 2025. And going into 2026, where one of the events is going to be America Waves, and that's going to be an opportunity for everyone in America to have their U.S. flags and be able to wave it together. On July 4th, 2026, a time capsule is going to be created to be opened for America's 500th birthday in 2276. So there's going to be national celebrations for leading up to July 4th, 2026. And I have just presentations that give an overview for all of you. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
I didn't forget you.
No, thank you.
I got the website. What's that? I'm on the,
All right, moving on. Next up, we have ordinance 53, 2024, enter into contract insurance coverage, property, vehicle liability. This would authorize the mayor or his designee to enter into contract with Wicker Insurance Company in the amount to be determined. We'll have the first reading today and then should have that amount before we vote on it, obviously. Are there any questions, comments? Okay, go ahead and open it up for miscellaneous for finance. If there's anything from the committee or the body, anything from the gallery? All right, hearing none, can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, and a second.
Second.
All right. We are adjourned at 6:51.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. That concludes our individual committee meetings this evening. Can we take just a 1-minute break real fast, and we'll begin the regular legislative meeting. What?
What kind of equipment do you want?
Like them to supply the stuff.
Okay, because that's like kind of.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started.
Okay.
Hurry up.
Before we kick you in the leg.
I won't make you rush.
Right, yeah.
All right, this is a regular legislative meeting of Barberton City Council. Today is Monday, June 10th, 2024. I call this meeting to order at 6:59 PM. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by invocation by Mrs. Hager.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, as we gather here this evening, guide us to make the right decisions and to keep our hearts ever faithful to you. Bless our first responders, especially our two newest Barberton firemen. Keep them under your faithful watch as they protect us along with our firemen and our military services. In this we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Mrs. Hager. Clerk, please call the roll.
President Greer.
Present.
Mr. Heidick.
Here.
Mrs. Thompson.
Here.
Mrs. Hager.
Here.
Mr. Cheatham.
Here.
Mr. Griffin.
Here.
Mrs. Beck.
Here.
Ms. Gerhart.
Here.
Mr. Harris.
Here.
Thank you. Approval of minutes. Approval of minutes of the regular legislative meeting held on Tuesday, May 28th, 2024. Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the approval of the minutes of the regular legislative meeting on Tuesday, May 28th, 2024.
Thank you. And Mrs. Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to second Mr. Heidick's motion to approve the minutes of the regular legislative meeting held on Tuesday, May 28th, 2024.
Thank you. It was moved by Mr. Heidick and seconded by Mrs. Thompson to approve the minutes of the regular legislative meeting held on Tuesday, May 28th, 2024. Are there any remarks? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Minutes are adopted. All right, approval of the minutes of the public hearing held on Tuesday, May 28th, 2024. Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the approval of the minutes of the public hearing from Tuesday, May 28th, 2024.
Thank you. And Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to second Mr. Heidick's motion to approve the minutes of the public hearing held on Tuesday, May 28th, 2024.
Thank you. A motion was made by Mr. Heidick and seconded by Mrs. Thompson to approve the minutes of the public hearing held on Tuesday, May 28th, 2024. Are there any remarks? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, the minutes of the public hearing are adopted. Petitions and claims?
There are none.
Matters requested?
They've all been dispersed.
Citizens addressing council? There are none. First reading of ordinances and resolutions.
Resolution number 51-2024, presented by Mrs. Thompson. Title, Ohio Commission for the United States Semi-Quincentennial, America 250, Ohio. A resolution of the City of Barberton, State of Ohio, supporting the Ohio Commission for the United States Semi-Quincentennial, America 250, OH.
This says doesn't have emergency wording on it. Motion to suspend, Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rule is required by Section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter be suspended.
Thank you. And Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will second Councilor Thompson's motion on suspension.
Thank you. A motion was made by Mrs. Thompson and seconded by Mr. Heidick to suspend the rule as required by Section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter. Are there any remarks? Please call the roll on suspension.
Mr. Cheatham.
Yes.
Ms. Gerhart.
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mrs. Hager.
Yes.
Mr. Griffin.
Yes.
Mr. Heidick.
Yes.
Mrs. Beck.
Yes.
Motion for suspension carries. Motion to adopt, Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of Resolution Number 51-2024.
Thank you. And Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will second the motion to adopt.
Thank you. A motion was made by Mrs. Thompson and second by Mr. Heidick to adopt resolution number 51-2024. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on adoption.
Mrs. Beck?
Yes.
Mr. Heidick?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Hager?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Gerhart?
Yes.
Mr. Cheatham?
Yes.
Motion for adoption carries.
Ordinance number 52-2024, presented by Ms. Gerhart. Title, amend ordinance number 98-2022, designated outdoor refreshment area. An ordinance amending ordinance 98-2022 by amending section 6, designated hours of operation for a special event on Sunday, September 8, 2024, from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. and declaring an emergency.
Motion to suspend, Ms. Gerhart.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rule as required by Section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter be suspended.
Thank you. Mrs. Beck?
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to second Ms. Gerhardt's motion.
Thank you. A motion was made by Ms. Gerhart, seconded by Mrs. Beck to suspend the rule as required by Section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter. Are there any remarks? Ms. Thompson?
Thank you. I just wanted to let you know I will be abstaining from voting on this evening, seeing that this is my committee, so I will not be voting on this.
Thank you. Are there any other remarks? Mr. Heidick?
Thank you, Mr. President. Due to my managerial duties and compensation mechanisms, just as when the DORA was created, my employment pretty much requires me to abstain from this vote.
Thank you, Mr. Heidick. Are there any other remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on suspension.
Mrs. Hager? Yes. Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Cheatham?
Yes.
Mr. Heidick abstains. Mrs. Beck?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson abstains. Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Ms. Gerhart?
Yes.
Sorry, what was the count, clerk? Just so I'm aware.
6 to 2.
All right. Motion for suspension carries. Motion to adopt. Ms. Gerhart.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of ordinance number 52-2024.
Thank you. Mrs. Beck.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to second Ms. Gerhardt's motion for adoption.
Thank you. Motion was made by Ms. Gerhart and seconded by Mrs. Beck to adopt ordinance number 52-2024. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on adoption.
Ms. Gerhart?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Beck?
Yes.
Mr. Cheatham?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. Hager?
Yes.
Mr. Heidick is,
Abstain?
Mrs. Thompson is,
Abstain.
All right, just for confirmation again, that's 6 to 2. Motion for adoption carries.
ordinance number 53-2024, presented by Mrs. Thompson. Excuse me. Title, enter contract, insurance coverage, property, vehicle, liability. An ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into contract with liquor insurance company in the amount to be determined, constituting a one-year renewal of the current contract for the city's property, vehicle, equipment, and liability insurance coverage due to expire on June 29th, 2024, and declaring an emergency. This is a first reading. This will go for 2 readings. And this ends the first reading.
Thank you. Second reading of ordinances and resolutions.
There are none.
Third reading of ordinances and resolutions.
There are none.
Appointments.
There are none.
Miscellaneous and unfinished business. We have none. We'll do communication from the body. Anything from council members? Mrs. Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to thank you guys for passing that so we can have that event. Mr. Heidick for bringing this idea up, and Ms. Eisman for your help to do with this as well. This is going to be a great event for Magic's Ready to Learn and helping provide school supplies for our little Magic. So I appreciate you guys. That's all.
Thank you, Mrs. Thompson.
I have one.
Ms. Beck?
This past weekend, the Magic City Arts and Music Festival was a huge success. So much so that I didn't see one negative comment on Facebook anywhere about it. I really only saw praise. And for the council members that came out and participated and volunteered, thank you so much. Tina and I were on the planning committee for that, and it was a really long haul, but we pulled it off, girl. Thank you so much for working together with everybody on that. If you didn't catch it, if you were out of town or whatever, or maybe didn't know about it, come next year. It was amazing. But also, I could say the only thing that I saw that people said, I didn't know about this. And I thought a long time about that, because I feel like we promoted this everywhere. It was in the Gazette. The Gazette publishes the, second Saturday for the whole year. I think we, follow Main Street. Follow Main Street Barberton. Get it in your feed. If you didn't see it, your algorithm is messed up. So if you want to participate in Barberton, put that in your echo chamber, because if you weren't there, you missed out. And it was amazing. So, but thank you, everyone.
I didn't volunteer, but I did eat.
Thank you. Support your local food truck, yes.
All right, is there anything else from council members? Are there anything from department heads? Director Eisman?
I just need an explanation so I understand. So I thought I had to pass by supermajority. Did the abstaining count 2 votes count as no?
Supermajority, 6 is supermajority, so if they would have had one more abstain, it wouldn't have made it. 6 is supermajority of 8.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Director. Is there anything else from department heads? The mayor's not here. Does anybody speaking on behalf of the mayor this evening?
He just wanted to pass along his apologies. He's got a sick daughter at home, so he had to stay home and couldn't make it.
Understandable. Thank you, Mr. Shreve.
Yep.
I don't have anything, so with nothing else, do I have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Heidig?
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll make that.
Ooh, Mrs. Beck, good call. It was moved by Mr. Heidig and seconded by Mrs. Beck that we adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Didn't think so. This meeting is adjourned at 7:10 PM.